There is a contingent of people who are following the same path as many of us, in one way or another, and there's often a divide that comes up somewhere in the thinking of a group. One hears today a lot of no effort, go with the flow, just be okay with what is. And all of that feeds into a particular mindset in one way, but it goes into a different mindset in a very different way. And how do I know how I'm supposed to be taking that? Go with the flow, it's all going to happen, no effort is required, everything is perfect as it is. You can't shoot down any one of those individual sayings and say that is always wrong and that is always right, because of context dependency. So when it comes to effort, and there is an element, a fairly significant element in my makeup that's more tamasic than rajasic, then when I hear there's nothing to do, I've just got to go with the flow, let it all go. But what does that do to the chronic state of tamas that I might be in if I'm hearing words like that? You don't have to make an effort. I don't know if that's the right thing to hear if somebody's in tamas. If somebody's in that low energy level of hopelessness and despair or darkness or tiredness or in the tamasic part of life, for that one to hear there's nothing to do. You don't have to strive. You don't have to make effort. It might have the opposite effect. Might drive them deeper into despair. So when Ramana Maharshi was saying, very similar to what Rumi had said, beyond all right and wrongdoing, there's a field, an open field. I'll meet you there. But to get there is where our attention should be. To get to that pathless path or that field, beyond all right and wrong, beyond all right doing and wrongdoing. So when it comes to effort and efforting, Bhagavan made it fairly clear that beyond effort and no effort, there is a place that's beyond that. But effort is required to reach that space. Once you've tasted that space, the bliss of that will never leave you alone. But that is beyond effort and no effort. But he made it very clear that to reach that stage, effort is required. And in Appa's language, my teacher's language, that was always my 3/10. I have to initiate, I have to use, I have to be involved. There must be effort up to the fullest that I'm able to. And then what I can't, I say over to you. So I've given my 3/10, and then there's a part that knows it cannot go further than that. And you will all recall that pictorial representation of the caterpillar and the butterfly. Once that caterpillar receives a call, which if we're here this evening, we must have been called, otherwise we wouldn't be in some kind of meeting like this. When that call came, that caterpillar left the tree with all the other caterpillars and walked several hundred miles, if you put it to scale of humans and worms, to get to the Holy Land, where he is now going to sit and meditate. And to get things right, he must make sure he's not going to fall over. He's going to be sitting still. And he's going to do his 3/10. And every time in this property, every time I see a caterpillar, he is just so clear about what he's doing. He's putting, you can see him. You think, now, where are you getting these thoughts from? Did your mother teach you? No. But you know exactly what you're doing. Have you got a premonition of where you're going? What your next life is going to be? And he just ignores me. He just knows what he has to do. That's the effort. The effort in this case is preparing. He's preparing a comfortable seat that he won't fall off. So when he's got himself nicely sitting straight and he knows he won't fall off, he's done his 3/10. Now, over to you, beloved. Thank you for the 7/10. And now he just waits. He just goes inside and waits. And where is that mystery of transformation? Is it on the inside? Is it on the outside? Who's calling the shots here? Where is this coming from? And it's all very well if we've read and we come across things like this, no effort required, you can just go with the flow. That's fine and well to hear if you know you are sattvic by nature. Then it's the appropriate thing to hear. Or if you're at the upper end of clean rajas, it's appropriate. But if there's an element in me that wants the shortcut, that wants the bottom line, that wants to get the hassles out of it, if there's that element in me, then it's not necessarily the best medicine to hear words like that. Then they can have the opposite effect. They drive me deeper into apathy. So when Ramana said beyond effort and no effort, there is a place. And having tasted that once, the bliss of that will want you to come back again and again. And it's the same as Rumi. Beyond the field of right and wrong, there is that field. Now, when it comes to effort can be badly misdirected or a bad use of energy, or it can have unintended consequences. So what constitutes right effort? As Buddha would say, right effort. So what's wrong effort? If there is going to be any effort as a seeker, I would like to suggest that if anything brings me more contained, contented, focused, still, that can't be wrong effort. If anything makes me very anxious, very busy, very interesting and interested and wanting information and generally restlessness, that might not be the right way. So what is right effort? If by doing this slowly, methodically, connected with reverence, and in the doing so, I'm starting to feel more centered. Like I would imagine the Chinese with their tea ceremony, doing very simple things, very slowly, very mindfully, and what comes out of that stilled mind? No effort. Because one senses in that there is no effort. It's going with a flow, but it's not a tamasic flow. And that's where vigilance is required. Am I going with the flow because it's an easy way out? Because it appeals to the tamas in me? Then it's better we get industrious with ourselves and do something. But whatever we do cannot be with the ultimate of bringing me closer to myself, more centered, more complete, more whole. So I get this thing in my head on my cupboard's untidy. So I'm now going to clean the cupboard. Start it slowly. Don't rush into it. Start it slowly. One thing at a time with your whole attention. And just starting it undividedly, it goes very quickly. But if I rush in quickly and start, I often have to undo things. I get distracted. I get dispersed, all because I'm not centered. I'm not one-pointed. I'm not stilled. So in what those great gentlemen have said with regards to the absence of free will, and which Buddha seems to be saying the opposite when he's talking about the right effort. In other words, don't do wrong efforts. There's something in the middle, and that is to do with not what you do, but how you do it. How? Am I feeling thankful for this thermos flask? Am I grateful to have milk and sugar in the bowl? And I'm making myself a cup of tea, mindfully, thinking of all the hands that brought this onto this table. How did the milk arrive? How did the sugar arrive? How did the tea? Not you thinking this. It's more feeling than a thinking. That's when my thinking slows down and I'm just with stillness making this cup of tea. Just making this cup of tea in stillness. And then when I sit down quietly and I drink that tea, it tastes like tea again. So the how, the effort is to be expended because effort is needed until I'm at that stage where I've gone beyond. But those kind of people are very rare. So it would be nice to learn appropriate use, or as Buddha would say, the right use of effort. And anything that either benefits others or centers me or grounds me or makes me feeling more okay might be right effort. But shouldn't I rather be helping those ba wa 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 that thought might come up. I should be helping out more on that. And then the social conscience says, yeah, you should do some more of that. All mind. Yes, you should do more of that. So your attention goes outwards to helping those people, let's say. It's no longer on the core of your being. It's on other. I've got gloriously distracted from the one who needs attention probably more than anybody else. I'm distracted by other. And if I'm continuously distracted by other, that might say something to me. Hey, what about you? And then we are reminded what they say on aircraft. When the oxygen masks fall down, you don't put your baby's one on first. You don't help your wife, your honeymoon sweetheart, with hers. They're quite clear about that. Because if you haven't got yours on and you've gone a little bit beschwipst, how can you possibly help others if not interfere with them? So in one sense, is the love of self a good thing or a bad thing? It depends what you mean by self. But if we had to look at the high points of what Advaita is pointing to, when it's making it quite clear that we are not separate from Source, is that a good thing or a bad thing for a rampant ego to hear? You are God. Is it a good thing or a bad thing for a rampant ego to hear? So you have to be careful who you say what to. But if it is to somebody like Sister Bernadette, who is so innocent and so open, it might be something very different. So again, Thomas needs to be taken as a clear warning that whatever I hear, if it's going to encourage a Tamasic element in me, it's better. And what Appa would advise, and has advised often in the past, in situations where there was some Thomas in the meditation room, he would say, if there's an easy way and a hard way of doing something, choose the hard way. That's a cure for Thomas. Thomas will always look for the shortcut and the easy way, the no-cost way, the no-pain way. And then it's very difficult ultimately to get out of Thomas, because I fed it so much. So to follow Appa's advice, if there's two ways you can do something, choose the more difficult way. He was saying that as an antidote to, it's all free, it's all for nothing, it's no effort required, it's what's the bother in making effort? It's all destined, it's all, there's no such thing as free will, whatever. Yeah.
So Patrick, I got a bit stuck on I think the thing that keeps coming is that being there for other has been like such a part of the unteaching, and I feel sometimes, and this is gonna sound weird, can also pull one out on the periphery.
Okay.
Pulls me sometimes maybe out on the periphery instead of...
Put you out on the periphery. Okay. If there's an element of should in it, then it will throw you to the periphery. If you're doing out of love, that's something different. But you can have a moment where you've had enough and you want a break and you're not getting a break, and that's doing something else. You know, we each have a boundary, and if we are pushed beyond that, it becomes more and more hazy, difficult. And maybe the answer there is to be able to, when one senses something like that is coming, is to be able to say, not now, I'll speak later. Or, not now, I'm not ready for it. Instead of, yes, okay, how can I help you now? How can I help you now? How can I help you now? Until you fall down. So there is that side of it. In the beginning, it's always nice to end on the side of giving rather than receiving. Yes, because tamas is all about receiving. Rajas is all about reciprocating, equal exchange. Sattva is about giving. So it's receiving, it's fair exchange, it's giving. And if I know I have to make effort, let me make them in such a way as I can, with as much awareness, focused as I can, be with what I need to do. And not what is going to, as you know, not what is going to give me, just being with it because I need to do it. And if I'm honest and I just am fully with it, the time does go a lot quicker than when you're arguing with it, and time goes quite slowly. So, anything else anybody would like to say? And probably the most important thing when I am busy with effort, directed effort, with the intention of being fully with it. I think one of the biggest aspects of the how, in other words, doing it properly, is to do with how much I'm able to switch off my thought and thinking stream. If I can be with whatever I'm doing, and I have mastered the ability of this monkey mind to jump from thought to thought to thought to thought, and I can be quietly with what I'm doing, I think your battle is almost over. A lot depends on the how, and the how depends upon what you're doing with your mind. If your mind is still running amok, even if you're sitting quietly, you think you're resting, but the mind won't let you rest, even though your body's still. So whatever I am led to do from moment to moment, as best I remember, can I be as present and with it as if nothing else matters in this moment, and just be with that. I catch myself thinking a thought, and that thought invariably comes from the past, some association of the past. And that's the very last thing I want. I don't want the past, I don't want the future, I want this moment. So if I am washing dishes, can I elect and decide with the use of my free will, 3/10 free will, I'm going to be quietly washing these plates. Now, who decided that? Did I decide or did something else decide? Was it my free will or was it something else? What was it? I could reflect. What was that? It's very easy to see how and why Ramana was emphatic about how every little last detail in our lives is predetermined. The last thing a Western mind wants to hear, absolute last. We've been educated to be cause, not the effect. We've been educated to be visionaries, not to be visioned. Now, who is man to be a visionary? Advaita would suggest, can you be visioned by the one? Because after all, where do you come from? What is your origin? What is your source? And what blew my teacher away when he was a late teenager were the first two words of the Lord's Prayer. What are the ramifications of that? Is it something separate from me? Father, we know, is not separate from me. And then he said, our. In those two words, everything is contained. It's everybody is associated, whether they think about it or not, is actually associated, connected to the one. There is only one, whatever that is. What is it? So in Advaita, it says not two. In Christ language, it says I and the Father are one. It's the same thing as saying I and the Father are Advaita. I and the Father are not two. We are not separate. And right at the end, he let his disciples know, you are my brothers. And who washed whose feet? He washed their feet. What a message was that? A total come around. You are the anointed. You are not less than I am. So in all of the efforting, where I do seem to have a choice, can I look at the how again and again? Because that is going to determine the color of whatever you do, is how you do it. Are you tense and wanting to get it out of the way in order to? Or are you saying, right, this has been put in front of me by what? You don't have to answer it, but you can just say, this has been put here. You might even think free will, destiny. You can just drop it and just say, this is what's here. Let's just do it. But don't think why or how or why me again, Lord, or, just attend to it. And then see if time flies or stands still, if you're fully with it. And even if you're fully with it in not such a nice way in the beginning, see what happens if you just stay with it, not you, with it, whatever it is. In other words, whatever is started is conducted in a good way and brought to a completion. It's a complete cycle of action. Start, continuation, complete. And we all know what it's like when you walk away from a completed cycle of action. Something that had been methodically done, well done, and a clear arrival point. Tuck, it's done. And you know how you feel after that. You feel more alert, you feel more open, you feel relaxed, you feel good. Because life itself is rewarding you for staying with one thing until it was complete, which is the other side of effort. That was using effort. But my awareness and my thinking wasn't on effort, because then it becomes tiring. It's on this, Hmm, whatever it is. Yeah.
So it does that mean the in that dream where I was never to enter the ashram because I was, is then the problem not that I'm just not slowly and happy doing what I want to do, but I'm longing to be somewhere else, even if that somewhere else is.
Say that again with different words, Annalene, because it's important what you're saying.
Does it then not matter if, like, I felt in that dream distracted by what came to do? It was this for work and that for work instead of going.
So the dream was telling you to do that and do that and do that.
Instead of going to the
Okay.
ashram, and all I wanted to do was.
Okay, all
So
right,
is
thank
then
you.
the problem is that I didn't. That I didn't accept where I was, and instead of longed for being somewhere else. Is that then the?
Okay, what Ramana's take on sleep dreams were that a sleep dream is no different to the waking dream, although it might be difficult to understand that in the beginning, but they both involve the same structure, which is to project, either project onto someone or something, or when you're dreaming, you project onto a screen, a play, but you're still projecting. So when three people look at a certain incident, then three people, when asked to write what did you witness, the three reports will be different because each one will interpret it according to what is already installed in their memory. So what you've already stored is going to influence how you interpret what you now see in front of you. And because the baby doesn't have anything stored, it doesn't interpret anything. It just is totally spontaneous with everything. There's no picking and choosing. So if I am needing to do something, how I do it might have quite a bearing on the outcome. How do I do it? With what spirit? First of all, it's very important that whatever you start, you finish. That's the first rule. What you start, cleaning up the kitchen here, start it, but then finish it, if you can. If you can't, then break it up into cycles, like that part I can do now. But it has a start and it has a finished. Although it's only part A, part B, part C. But at least part A is very doable in a day. And that's my goal. And what happens when you get to the end of that and it's been done and it's ended? You feel very different. And as I've said before, this was part of the parcel given to all math students and aviation students before they wrote exams. When you go into an exam and the examiner says, turn your papers over, read all the questions carefully, slowly. Take 10 minutes off and tick them with 3 ticks, 2 ticks, 1 tick, 1 cross, 2 crosses, 3 crosses, depending on how easy or how difficult it is. Because then when you start, where will you start? If you want to make sure that you capitalize on the power of a completed cycle. You will start on one that you know you can do, and it's easy. It's got 3 ticks. And once you start that and you complete that, and it comes to a nice round answer, it's a good feeling. Helps you relax more. So then you go on to the next one that got 3 ticks. And by the time you get to the 1 cross and the 2 cross problems, because you are so collected now and stilled, they don't look like 1 cross and 2 cross problems anymore. And the one that's got 3 crosses, you probably don't have time for anyway. But a whole new way of writing an exam paper. Just making sure that what you start, you complete. And I would say to them, when the examiner says, turn your papers over and start, what always happens is everybody goes straight into question number 1. And you can say, and I used to say this to my students, I want you were allowed to smoke in the classroom in those days, in the hall. And many of them smoked. I'd say, look, if you want to, take a beer in, take your tection in. When they say start, light up a tection, put your feet up on the desk, and read this paper carefully. And just make sure that once you've marked the 2 ticks, 3 ticks, cross, 2 cross, 3 crosses, you start on number 1. So 10 minutes later, it's difficult if you don't know, because as they say start, everybody is rushing on the side of you. Everybody is going straight in. And you're sitting there reading. I said, no. How? When you read, realize that all of these people are panicking. They've got adrenaline going. They're scrambling. They're going straight into maybe a 3 cross problem. And after half an hour, realizing the answer's wrong. So when the examiner says start, before you read, just look at the people panicking on your right, look at the people panicking on your left, and give them a slow smile, a warm smile, a compassionate smile, a smile that you feel, shame. Wish I could share a few thoughts with you. And then you're relaxed. And you put your feet up on the desk and you just do it slowly and methodically. So there is effort there, but it's directed effort. And for that effort to be directed, I can't think of a better definition of what is right effort, according to the Buddha. If it centers you and collects you. If it centers you and collects you, you've actually put your own oxygen mask on. And now you can really help others. So it looks selfish, but it's about how I am with myself is how I am with every other self. That's why it's best I put my own oxygen mask on, because then I'm good to myself. And I can also help other people. So is what I'm doing selfish? Yes. Sometimes it looks selfish, but not if the motive is just to be quiet with one thing, one pointedly, centered, contented as best I can. And what I can do is take stock of how I let my thoughts run amok, or how I can say, thanks, I want a break. And then look at something that inspires you. Look at a person's eyes, look at a baby's face, look at a tree, look at a flower, look at a bird having a bath. But nature doesn't have a problem. That's why it's so nice to be with nature. Is there anything else anybody would like to say? So again, that metaphor of the booster rocket that takes the spaceship out into space, the most powerful of all the rockets. I just think that aircraft with the astronaut sitting in it waiting for countdown is very still. It's very quiet. Looks like Thomas. So to get that into free orbit requires enormous effort. Can you imagine the effort required? When that booster rocket fires, that's the ego firing up, the metaphor. It does require effort to get beyond this down-pulling tendency of gravity. I mean, Thomas. So it requires a strong booster rocket of I can, I will, I want. In other words, effort. And then when that effort has been expanded in the right direction, in other words, upwards, then there will come a time you have to jettison that effort, that ego, into effortless flight. And that is sattva. The effortless flight of zero gravity is sattvic, it's tamas. It looks like tamas, but it's actually sattva. But I can't end up in sattva unless there's been lots of rajas, effort. Imagine talking in the capsule just before countdown, reminiscing on what happened to Apollo 13, not mentioning it as such, but being very conscious of it. It all depends upon Mother, the booster rocket. How is she going to be with me today? Now, if they were dying to have that stillness of space, haven't they already got it? Stillness. If they could just stop thinking and stop talking, they're already still. And then Rajas at some point is required. So not on what, but on how. If I have to know where free will comes in this, do I have the choice of what thoughts come? It's a difficult one, that. Do I have a choice in what thoughts come? Put it this way, but easier to understand this way. Do I have a choice on what to do with the thoughts after they've come? So there we got informed. Now, what to do about thoughts just before they come? They are going to come. Where from? Are those free will? You don't know what's coming next. That in 2 minutes' time, 20 seconds' time, there's a thought. Where did it come from? Who slipped it in? If there's no such thing as free will, who slipped it in? If there's no such thing as free will, who slipped it in? If there's no such thing as free will, so who slipped it in? If there's no such thing as free will. So I ask you now, who slipped it in? The one master said once, my thoughts are not your thoughts. He was indicating there might be two different types of thought. My thoughts are not your thoughts, it was said. So we've all had a lot of experience, I'm quite sure, in rummaging around our archives of thoughts and thinking and stories and beliefs and comments. We know about those thoughts. Not very inspiring, many of them. Have to do with a lot of stuff. What about a thought that comes out of the blue that you've never ever thought of before? Like inspiration. Where does that come from? Does it come from your experiential field? I can't see it. Not the one that I'm conscious of. Might come from some other experiential field that I'm no longer conscious of, but not from the one I'm conscious of. And what can I do with that that touches me in a special way? If not be fully with it. It was given to me. It came up. It's a card that was chosen, if you like to take the route of no free will, a card that was given. What to do? How? How am I to be with that thought? It came unannounced. It wasn't planned. It had nothing to do with what went previous. It's got nothing to do with my past history. What is this? It's new. Where does it come from? Don't worry about that. You get back into your head. Stop that. Just be with the feeling of it. Don't go into your head. It's the quickest way to lose it. Anything else comes up? Yes. Talk, Krishna. Your mic's off. Your mic is off. Is your mic off? No, for me it's fine, but can somebody else talk? Can somebody say hello? Can't hear you. Oh, we can't hear you. I don't know why. Just one moment. We've got a specialist handlanger here. Talk, Krishna. Just say 1, 2, 3. Okay. Sorry? I think maybe we might have to just default to just being still. Can you say 1, 2, 3, Krishna?
1, 2, 3.
Okay, we hear you fine. What is your question, or what did you want to say? Thank you.
I would like to know, when you come on the journey to make the right efforts and you study your meditations and spiritual journey and looking for truth, what is real, and making those efforts,
Sorry?
you get to a point where you kind of like cannot identify with some of the stuff you kind of believed when you did some spiritual practices or belief systems you picked up, or maybe things that you thought. It's like I find myself these days in a place that I cannot identify with a lot of things. Like it's almost like a no man's land. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I cannot identify even the hero or the villain if you look at archetypes, because both, for me, they now both the same. I cannot identify anymore with love or the lack of love, because to me it starts looking the same. It's like I also I kind of like see a lot of things around me as projections from myself, in the sense of what I used to give in any name or any label. It can be love, it can be generosity, it can be gifts, it can be acts of service. It's mostly because somehow inside my group, at one point, it must have been something to do with me. Either I craved it or I had picked up a belief system. And now I find my world is changing. It's like, it's almost like when you stumble in the world of truth, that itself can become a concept. And so you realize that it loses a lot of authenticity in the efforts of making the right effort.
Yeah, can I just say something? The quality that I'm hearing, I'm not following you. It's acoustically not very good. Are you people able to hear? Hmm?
I'll type my question on the email and I'll forward it to you.
Yes, okay. No, that'll be good. I hope that's what some of you will do, because then it gives me something to talk about going forward. All right, let's just be quiet for the last 10 minutes. We have the opportunity to let things go now. If it's meant to come back to me, it will come back to me. If it's not meant to come back to me, it won't. Cannot let it go. If I keep letting it go and it keeps coming back, it's mine. Whatever comes up, let it come up, but just don't pay attention. Keep your awareness at the center of your being, quietly, regardless of what's coming up, what thoughts come. In spite of and in the midst of all of these, can you be quiet at the center? That's all that matters. A moment when I can put my head in the deep freeze and pick it up when I come back. Okay, open my eyes. Good evening.